Since our last conversation together went down so well with everyone, thank you for your feedback. It was really appreciated. We're back and doing another one. So today we'll be talking about our submission categories, focusing mostly on our annual journal submission category. This year's annual journal will be our fourth edition of the Superlative Journal, which is quite exciting. It will be titled Growth, and we'll be accepting short stories and poetry works. The deadline is the 31st of August. But yeah, today we just want to focus on going over some questions and sharing some behind the scenes input that you might want to know regarding this submission category. So, Ross, what made you choose the theme of growth for this year's journal?
Thanks, Hannah. I can't believe it's the fourth edition
I
of
know.
the journal now, to be honest. Yeah. It's gone so fast and it's come around so fast again. But yeah, we've always chosen themes based on what stage of life Superlative is at, basically. So we started with new beginnings and then we went on to scapes because we were exploring kind of new ideas, new landscapes, and the journal was constantly evolving and changing. So then we had futures because we were looking to the future, planning and thinking about what Superlative might look like in the near future and what we wanted it to look like in 5 or 10 years' time, which again, I'm sure we'll be here in no time at all. And now I suppose, we're in that future, aren't we? We had our 6 years conversation the other month. I can't remember, literally just last month. And we're growing the journal, reaching newer, wider audiences all the time, publishing more and more fantastic writers and helping them grow, hopefully. And I have no idea where it will stop, if it will ever stop. But I've got no doubt that it will give us some interesting theme ideas for the 2027 journal. And the theme of growth is going down really well so far this year. And it's broad enough for writers to find lots of different topics for their stories, but also it gives us a very clear focus, which I like.
Have the submissions got to be strictly growth, or can it be like a loose kind of guidance to go on?
Yeah, we try very, very hard with the themes to pick something that is loose enough that you can shoehorn almost any story into it, but just with kind of a general sense of direction. And the beauty of it is it can be really, really specific, or it doesn't have to be. As long as there is a link, then the editors are perfectly happy. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So I know we've asked this question before regarding submissions and what you're looking for, but
Mhm.
this time, what sort of submission for growth would stand out to you?
Yeah, so I suppose the answer is partly the same as before. We're always looking for those well-crafted submissions. And as you already know, I like stories and poems that discuss big topics by talking about little things. And I like the clean and the crisp prose and clever, specific attention to detail, all of those sorts of things. That doesn't change. But I suppose with the submissions for growth, it would be all too easy to just focus a story around a character's kind of individual growth, which is absolutely fine. But I think a real standout story would be one that interprets the theme in a unique and really intriguing way, something that we've not seen before. And I want basically to be bowled over by something that I'm not expecting, some interpretation that I could never foresee. And there have been a few stories and a few poems like that so far this year already, not in the annual journal category because obviously that's not closed yet, but in some of the other categories where and I've spoken to the authors and the writers and the poets about this, where I've read the story, I've read the poem, and hands down, it's one of the best poems or the best stories that I've read so far this year. And those ones, to be honest, we pretty much snap up straight away because they're going to be picked up by another journal otherwise, and they're the ones that you really, really want to keep hold of.
Yeah. So Paula, our wonderful illustrator, has been designing all the artwork we've been sharing since the submission window opened. So the little animations that have now come along, and
Yeah.
obviously the pieces that are going to be part of the graphic novel. So how will that all connect with growth at the end?
Yeah, so Orla's illustrations and artwork, as people have hopefully seen, they're fantastic. She's absolutely brilliant, and because they're always superb, she's always got such excellent ideas and such creative ideas. And when we first discussed this new theme, Orla was very keen, as she always is, and she immediately had more interesting ideas than I did, which is one of the reasons I really love working with her. And she wanted to design this whole set of artwork around the theme of growth, which would then all slot together as this graphic novel strip, kind of culminating in the cover art, which would complete the strip. So the way it will all slot together, we've been trying to release a new illustration, if not every month, then every other month, trying to keep it relatively consistent. And they've been kind of building and building and changing and growing towards, I think there's maybe one more, and then the final artwork will come out, and that final artwork will be the cover. And I have absolutely no idea what it will look like, which I really, really like. I just give all a complete free reign of what she illustrates for Superlative. And she's essentially become kind of the face of Superlative in terms of the artwork.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got a few left to come. We can piece them all together come September when we're judging and when the submissions are getting ready to go to print, and then we can release the artwork, and then of course it will just appear in print, which will be wonderful.
No, I'm really excited
Yes.
because I love specifically, I love Futures, the third cover and how like the wraparound around the journal. I'm so excited to see what she's going to do with growth and just to see it like obviously like the works that'll be inside, but the work outside and yeah, be really cool.
Yeah, the wraparound is fantastic, isn't it? I really like the Futures one as well. I think actually out of all the covers that she's done, Futures is Orla's least favorite. Um, but we're all really critical of our own work, aren't we? And I think basically for the new artwork for 2026 for growth, she's gone for a completely different color scheme, which it is completely different to Futures because it's something that she thinks will work better in print on the cover, which we'll see come. It'll be
Yeah,
kind of October, November time. It won't quite be September. It'll be October, November when we see it in print.
yeah, that'll be really, I can't wait. I
Yeah.
can't wait. So, touching upon sort of September, October, what is the selection process when it comes to the annual journal? How do you pick the winners, when you're going through submissions?
Yeah, so the editors are obviously working on the open journals and the monthly features, and we've got the quarterly features as well now, and then obviously the annual journal comes September. So for the annual competition, we have our annual schedule for selecting winners. So I think you mentioned earlier on, submissions close on the 31st of August every year, and then the editors can immediately start making their decisions. And we pretty much give ourselves September to make our selections. And usually this is all done remotely. So for all the monthly features and the open journals, everybody edits remotely. And we've got editors in Japan, soon to be Australia, up in Scotland, all over the UK. So working remotely is very helpful, very efficient. It's much easier. But it's a lot more fun actually for the annual journal because every time we've done it before, we've made an effort for the editors to meet in person, to have dinner, and then afterwards compare and discuss kind of shortlists and runners up and winners and that sort of thing. I'm very, very hopeful that we'll be able to do that again this year. Whether we'll get Dan back from Japan and Holly back from Australia, I don't know. Possibly not. But we can still get them involved remotely, even if the rest of us only meet in person.
You could,
But as you know, oh, sorry, go on.
I'd say you could Zoom call and put them on a chair, so it looks
I
like
think
they're.
that's basically what we'll have to do. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get the laptops up and we'll zoom everyone in and then we'll all be around the table. And it'll be probably 2 a.m. for Dan, and Holly as well, but they can have breakfast maybe instead of dinner. But yeah, as you know, I'm a really big fan of doing these sorts of things in person. It's always fun and it feels very, very real. And aside from the literary festivals and running workshops and the whole process of creating the annual journal and publishing it, that physical meetup, I suppose, the in-person workshop feels like a real tangible result of our efforts. We're all doing this together.
Yeah,
And about the process itself, as well as just physically how we do it, I think one thing that's always really important, and I say this all the time to writers when they ask about the process, is that my voice isn't any louder than anybody else's on the editing panel. I am one of the editors. Yes, it's my job to coordinate everything, but it's not my job to overrule everybody else. And sometimes, although I think this has only happened once, we're all in perfect agreement and we all know, yes, these are going to be the shortlisted pieces and this is the runner-up. And yeah, fantastic, this will be the winner. But most of the time, it's not that easy. And we spend time discussing pros and cons of different pieces, their merits and their qualities, which are the best fit for the journal, which are the best fit for the theme, those sorts of things. And it can take quite a while, to be honest. It's a pretty in-depth process, but it is a lot of fun. We're all doing it because we love to read and edit the pieces. And one way or another, whether it takes an hour, whether it takes 4 hours, we end up with our shortlists and our runners up, and obviously by the end, the winners, which is fantastic.
Cool. So once the winners have been selected, when will the journal be published? And will there be another launch event once the journal's been published?
Yes, so yes, there will. The annual schedule is we do the editing, like I mentioned earlier on, in September. The long list will be announced in October. The short list is announced in November, and then the winners are announced in December alongside launching the physical journal, which, yes, absolutely will include a launch event on Zoom, where the winners will have the opportunity to read their work for the live audience, which will be anybody who wants to attend, but everybody who was published in the journal, which will include the shortlist, the runners up, and the winners. It'll be dozens of writers probably. Our launch events have always been a lot of fun in the past, and we run them on Zoom because we have so many writers from all over the world. An awful lot of our contributors are from America, Canada, Australia, Italy, Germany, everywhere. It's absolutely not just the UK. And even if it were just the UK, it's still very difficult to get everybody in one room for 2 hours on the same day. It's just very hard. It's not feasible, really. And I don't want to just kind of publish the journal and have it posted out to winners and that's it, kind of done. There's no fanfare. Obviously, it's great to see your work in print, and that is one of the reasons we do it. But I want there to be an event. I want there to be a celebration of the publication of the journal and more specifically of the writer's work within it. And yeah, we want that celebration because it should be a celebration of people's writing and their achievements, not just, okay, yeah, it's done. Thanks very much. I don't feel like that's enough, to be honest.
Because it's lovely to be able to read people's poems, people's stories, but you want to see who they are and kind
Yeah.
of put a face to the wonderful work that you've just read. And yeah, the launch events are such a good way to do that because we get to hear the words in their, well, the stories in their voices, and
Yeah.
it's just
No,
all round very lovely.
yeah, absolutely. And it's really nice to get them to read their own work. And I've read a couple of pieces before myself when people haven't been able to make it, and that's fine. But yes, if we can get the actual writers in the room, as it were, electronically at least in the room, then it's always better. Yeah.
Yeah. So, last question for today's conversation. We had an early bird submission window for growth
Yeah.
last year. Will we have another window for the, currently untitled fifth journal? And adding on to that, do you have something in mind title-wise for what you might be calling the next journal? Little spoiler.
So yes, definitely there will be an early bird window for the 2027 print issue of Superlative. And it will run from the 1st of September 2026 through to the 1st of January 2027. So basically, once this window closes, it will be the rest of the year. And then from January 2027, we'll begin accepting full price submissions. And I think it's really important to offer this early bird window. And you and I have talked quite a lot about the need for submission fees before. If I could make all the submissions free, I absolutely would. But it just isn't possible, to be honest, because the journal has so many running costs, and without the submission fees, we basically wouldn't be able to operate. And there's always this conversation, isn't there, around submission fees and how people wish there weren't submission fees. And I agree, absolutely. But our alternative basically is not to exist, which we don't want. So that being said, we still want to make it accessible to as many people as we possibly can. So yes, there will be the early bird window because at the very least, 25% off is better than full price. And as far as the theme goes for 2027, no, I haven't decided yet, if I'm perfectly honest. This will probably be something that I'll push out to the editors for ideas. Then you and I probably will discuss in more depth. We've got a lot going on. It's all very, very exciting. There's lots of new things happening or that have already happened this year and will continue to happen this year. And I want the next theme to reflect all of those things, whatever it ends up being. But as of yet, no, I don't know what that will look like.
I can't believe we're at the fourth one and we're now talking about the fifth. Like I remember last year talking about setting up the early bird window and talking about
Yeah.
the the new journal, and now we're here, what, 2 months or so from the deadline.
Yeah, well,
What?
yeah, near as damn it. Yeah, so yeah, the deadline obviously will be the 31st of August, and yeah, it's coming around very, very fast, isn't it? And I'm expecting, and we always see this in the run up to deadlines, and I'm fully expecting the same thing in the run up to this one. We get that huge spike in submissions as the deadlines get closer and closer, and that's fantastic, obviously. But it's very much in the forefront of my mind that we need to be ready for it.
Mhm.
And maybe that's something that writers don't necessarily see unless they've looked at it from this side of the fence, I suppose. I want them to submit their work, and obviously they're doing their simultaneous submissions, and I encourage that definitely, all of these sorts of things. But from the journal's perspective, so that we can get back to writers in a timely fashion, and so that we can give them the personalized feedback, and so that we can keep publishing more work, etc., etc., etc. There's an awful lot of thought and planning and prep that goes into it. And if we just go into, and I know this from the hard experience, I suppose, if we go into August and we're not ready, we will be overwhelmed and we
Yeah.
won't be able to cope with it. So this next 2 months, like I said, is right at the forefront of my mind that we need to be prepared and need to be prepped. And I'm putting a lot of things in place to make sure that we are, because absolutely the last thing we want to do is for it to roll around and we let all the writers down, because that's not what we're about, obviously. So yes, I can't believe it's come around already, but we're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for today. It was really great to talk about this, and hopefully it's been helpful to those that are watching that might, want to nosy in on some more info, and for me as well. So yeah, thank you for today, Ross.
No, brilliant, Anna. Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll keep doing more and more of these. Thank you.